peak oil's coming our way, and I'll mention it very briefly, but then what is the effect of that? What might we expect happening to us as ordinary people in New Zealand? Now, I'm from North Shore City Council, and it's something that we're looking at, particularly from a point of view of transport, because we're putting heaps of cash into widening roads, building roads, doing all sorts of stuff like that, and maybe it's not such a good idea, and there may be other things that we should do. But the problem here is that everybody complains all the time about congestion, and the police respond to that, and they're all being elected at the moment, so they will tell us what to do, and they'll do it on the basis of what people elect them to do. So we have to work our way through to see, first of all, from our own point of view, what could possibly happen when peak oil kicks in, what are going to be the side effects of it, and how will that progress? And then to use that to feed into an information and awareness building initiative whereby people will take this on board, understand it, start to integrate it into their decisions and what they want the police to do for them and how they persuade the police to do what would make sense in that regard. So there's a bit of a track for us up ahead. So what I've done here is, I mean, we don't know what the future holds. Nobody knows what will actually happen, when it'll start and exactly what will happen. We haven't confronted it before. Although I think a few of us, the grey-haired, the grey-bearded ones around here will remember the 70s quite well and how it happened to us then. We had to cut back on our beer so that we could afford more petrol. But it went away. After all, it went away. Now, when peak oil comes, it won't go away again. It will sit with us for the rest of time. In fact, it will progressively get worse, the situation being the availability and the price of liquid fuels. And liquid fuels are so important in our lives, that's so important in transport and all sorts of other components of our lives, that, and those things, a lot of those things are hidden, that they'll take time to come through, and we'll take time to understand what it is. And so we're starting on this path of trying to understand what it is, to try and tease out the issues so that we can apply our minds and say, well, what can we do? Is there something we can do? So what I've constructed here is a scenario, one. There could be any number of scenarios. And in this scenario, I'm saying that we don't do anything. Okay, it just happens to us. We're like a glider launched into the air, and we just let it come down depending upon the currents. The wind blows this way and that way. And as time goes by, we'll just see what happens. Now, clearly we mustn't do that. But what I'm going to map out for you is the kind of things that might happen. And what we're doing at North Shore is to put this in front of people in different professional sectors so that they can say, well, what does this mean to me? What am I going to do? How am I going to apply this in my particular area? And using their knowledge and their intellect to come up with solutions. So here we go. I'm going to talk about a completely reactive stance to the onset of peak oil. So this is going to map what I'm calling the glide path. There's no engine on this plane, run out of gas, okay? So we're just going to glide our way down. It just happens to us. And I'm going to look at the econometrics. Now, this isn't I mean, we can be emotional about it, and we can think about it and say, well, maybe this will happen or that's happened. What I'm going to put in front of you today is just the statistics, just the numbers. So this is real stuff which is coming out of various different, very legitimate sources, such as Statistics New Zealand, research done in the universities here and there, and I'll refer to them as we go through. So you can see that this isn't just scare tactics or whatever. These are numbers that we can rely upon to a great extent. How we interpret those numbers and what they apply, how that applies to us, is what this whole research is about. So what I'm assuming is that we're not going to take any politically risky positions, the politicians.
Are we any notes afterwards, or should we take our own?
I think you should take your own. I haven't got any handouts, but what could be, I think the organisers, they're going to leave the proceedings on the website, and this will be posted on the website, so you'll be able to use this there, from there. If not, you can, because I'm not certain about that, but I think that's what they did last year, previous year, then you can make a note of my email address, and I can send you this. Okay. So I just want to emphasize that this is not a forecast. I do believe that the creativity of New Zealanders in particular and the general basis of adaptability of humankind is that we'll actually respond to this and we'll find solutions and we'll solve the problems as we go along. So just remember that this isn't a forecast. This is just a scenario based upon the fact that we're just going to sit back on our couches watching television, do nothing. Okay, so this is what might happen. So how big a risk is it? How big is it to us? Now, if you know about peak oil, you've heard Richard perhaps, and you've studied it elsewhere, you'll know that peak oil is principally about a limit to the supply of oil that you can extract from the rock in the ground. So it's a geological thing, it's a below ground thing. Now, there are other limits, and I'm just putting up another one here, and you will have a look on the walls. There's a couple of posters which you can refer to later, because these will flash away, of course. This particular one, now, if you haven't heard of them, I better introduce them. The International Energy Agency, they're a very august organization. They were put together as a result of the crises in the 70s. They are a utility, if you like, which represents the 28 or whatever it is number of countries who are members of the IEA, including New Zealand, all of the OECD countries, so all the developed economies and a few other countries as well, but basically it's that group. It's a very substantial organization. Until very recently, it has denied the possibility that there could be limitation on the supply of crude or of oil. They're still not on board with peak oil as such. They've still got a problem there, so they're not getting their heads around it. But what they have come to the conclusion, though, is that there are limitations in supply, and they're putting it in a different way. And this is what they're saying here. And if I can just walk you through the graph. They're saying that within 5 years from now, there will be significant supply problems. They're looking here, this is a growth-based graph. This is not the total supply, this is growth. So we're saying here, these lines here, this indicates the world's economy. And what they're recognizing here is that the economy and supply and the use of oil are completely bonded together under present circumstances. And I'll come back to that further in the New Zealand context. So gross domestic product, GDP, the economy is tied to how much energy we consume, and oil is a key component of that for transport. So here, these three lines indicate projections for high growth, medium growth, low growth in the world economy. And you can see this one here, this is the low economic growth. At the moment, we're running over here. This is what the world's doing at the moment. And that would be sort of like a medium path. If the housing issue in states goes into free fall, we might fall down to here, or it might go down even a bit further, who knows. So if we're looking at those, that is what the demand is projected to be. This is what the production, the extra production, is expected to be. And we're looking here, the current year, you can see in here the different, there's OPEC capacity, they're going to build extra capacity, not necessarily supply, but capacity to produce supply. And over here, there's natural gas liquids adding on to that, so that's turning natural gas into liquid fuel. And by a little sleight of hand, they deny peak oil, but they're already slipping in biofuels. This is growth in biofuels adding to the availability here. And you can see that biofuels, very little growth after here. So I'm afraid it's not going to be a panacea. It's not going to save us from things going wrong. Now, the point here is that in 2009, if the world economy keeps booming as it is, that gap means there's a gap between supply and demand. That's 2 years away. If there's a recession, which is quite possible, then we'll still be okay until 2011. So even in a world recessionary condition, we're going to have a problem here. And the point of that problem is that the price